Hello, this is Trista, Psychic Question of the Day. I'm doing a follow-up here. I had gotten some questions from BP who had emailed them to me and had missed the email. So these are his questions. And hopefully, if there's anybody else that's interested in some of the things he was asking about, this will help you also. So thank you for the opportunity to do this. His first question was about angels and guides, asking how many and their names. I had gotten that there's three, and he was asking for two people. So I'm guessing there's three angels, so that would include guardian angels and guides. And then the names I got were Madeline, George, and the lieutenant. So a lot of times the names may be nicknames, and we'll get into that as we go along here. So this is what they said. Angels and guides are always changing, so we don't always know that their names and their titles may be. So um, sometimes if you can get quiet and you can ask, um, and listen to see if you can hear a name or a title or something comes to mind. It's going to be very quiet. It almost sounds like your own head, except for it was something that you weren't thinking about. It was totally random that kind of popped into your head that you weren't even um, thinking about. So, and some of the names that they give you are so kind of random and different that there's no way you would have made that name up anyway. Although some of the names are very common, and they'll kind of comment on that as we go here. Um, so, and then they sometimes their names aren't their real names because the languages that their real names are from or are in are foreign to us. They're not in English. They're not probably even from this planet. So some of the names are names that we would never be able to um, pronounce or maybe catch. Um, so sometimes they'll have nicknames, names that are more common. Um, so some of their nicknames some of them may have nicknames that are from Earth or in English, and they're easier for us to identify um, with them and their names. Um, and most family members are not angels or guides. So I think sometimes when people are asking for names, they're wondering if it's a family member. But most family members are not approved to be, um, they're assigned guides. They may be around the person, but they're not an assigned guide. Um, they go on to say, family members are not their angels or guides, but it doesn't mean that the family members and loved ones aren't around them, aren't checking in, or aren't attempting to contact them. So they could be involved in, you might be feeling them around you, but they're just maintaining their relationship with you that they had here. Um, so there's some confusion with that. A lot of people like to believe that their loved one crosses over and then they all of a sudden will become their guardian angel. You hear that a lot. And I think that a lot of that's wishful thinking. Um, but it doesn't mean that they're not around. It just means they're not the assigned angel or guide to you. Um, although sometimes there's cases where a family member may be approved temporarily. I had a family member that was with me as a guide, kind of a temporary guide for a short time. And that was just based on they knew my response to this person, and so that person would elicit a kind of response in me that is what they were looking for. So I think they kind of allowed for that to happen. And that person, I don't believe is on the other side anymore. So I think they've reincarnated somebody somewhere else. But and usually that's just temporary. They usually step in to help with short term um, concerns or worries. Um, so I think that's it for that. And a lot of that stuff is kind of personal. Names and guides and stuff are kind of personal to the people asking the questions. So um, probably don't want to necessarily always ask that on an open forum like this. So the second question he had was info about past lives. Sometimes past life stuff will come up oftentimes, especially in personal readings and stuff. They didn't want to comment because that is kind of personal. They didn't want to comment on this forum as far as that goes, but they did say traveling to different places around the world or different sites that you feel drawn to can trigger some past life memories and connections. So traveling, going to places you feel drawn to historic sites or locations. And then they specifically said places such as, the Egyptian pyramids. If you had an Egyptian lifetime, you might be drawn to the Egyptian period pyramids or different structures around the world that have history to them. Also battlegrounds. I know I did a trip out west once in the United States to a location a couple times. Um, because I felt a pull there. And I believe that I probably was at that battleground in that past lifetime. Um, I don't have the specifics on it, but you can kind of feel it. You can kind of feel the pull. You can kind of feel the emotion come up when you're there. There's a connection. Um, Sometimes some people might have flashbacks on that location, or see glimpses of pictures, moments that you don't remember from this lifetime. So they're flashbacks from a past life. So if you have a pull to go visit Ireland, or if you have a pull to go visit, I don't even know where, Nepal or wherever it is, um, that could be a past life thing going on there. And if you have, the resources and time to do it, um, I would encourage you to go check it out and enjoy it and see what you learn. There could be other information there that you're supposed to get from those locations. Um, so that's kind of that. They didn't want to get into any specific past life stuff on this video, but BP can check with me further for more personal information if he wants to. Number 3, when making contact with spirits on the other side, do you call on them individually or do you call on whoever is willing to respond? If someone gives me a name, they want to hear from their grandmother or a pet or whoever. Um, I'll go into the healing and I'll have that name written down, and then the angels will, indicate if that person is available. They know that you want to speak with them, so oftentimes they will be available, but they are busy on the other side. Um, the other thing too is sometimes people don't think to ask about certain people, or they just are focused on one person, and then someone else will step forward, and usually those are people that needed to hear a message, needed to reconnect with that person. There was some specific information that they needed to bring forward. Um, so sometimes they'll step forward, and sometimes it's the people that you kind of request to be, or to check in with. So it can be both ways. So that's that. I didn't channel it. That was just, I think he was just asking me directly how that works. Number 4, what is the best way to think of God? And then he listed a couple different ways that sometimes people think of God. He said his examples were pure energy, pure goodness, Father, King, etc. So their response to that was, of those 4, the preferred one would be Father. Um, most people identify with that. Some people may um, think a more of a feminine side or the goddess, but of the questions that the answers, the words that he had listed there, preference would be Father. Titles like king aren't necessary or requested. They said we are family, so something like that. So Father would be a family figure. Um, Something like that would be more appropriate. Also, friend, teacher. The source says it doesn't want it to be so formal. It wants to be more of a family connection. He also said creator is okay also. And if you don't really prefer any of those titles, then you just ask your higher source, what what they prefer, um, and you can come to some sort of name or title role that you're more comfortable with, but you can ask. There's no set um, name or title for that. Um, he says something that don't you want a name that kind of denotes a kind and loving relationship with somebody. So any name like so father or creator, um, those are more kind and loving, not like authoritative names. And then they said, thank you for asking. Number 5, um, when we pass, should we go to the light or away from the light? So this is kind of a difficult question. That's what they said too. Um, in recent years, there's been some rumors online that you shouldn't go to the light, that it's a trick. Um, they did give me some information on it. They didn't totally spell it out. But I understand the question that he's asking because I have heard that also from multiple sources online. So this is what they said. This is a difficult question. There are a lot of things going on in the universe and on the astral plane. There is some confusion here now due to lies and misinformation. And they didn't say which were the lies and the misinformation. Um, they did say there are also some tricksters out there. So there could be people out there, um, souls or energies that are either lies or disinformation, or I don't even know what to call it. A different illusion, possibly. I don't know. Um, so instead of just focusing on that, they said they gave us some examples of things you could do to make sure um, you're heading in that right direction. So um, they say walk with your angel. So your guardian angel is always going to be with you, even after you've died and passed in the physical body. That angel's with you. That angel takes you to where you need to go. So stay with the angel. Go where if you're confused, because some people they're just going to shoot to where they need to go. Um, they're going to recognize where to go right away. But if there's some confusion, um, stay with the angel and follow the angel. Um, they say the angels, they know the way. And they did say someone did put up a light to distract and disorient souls that are crossing. So I don't know the details of it, and I don't know if I want to know the details of that, but um, going toward the light of God is where you want to go. Your soul knows the way home. They say there's a cord that attaches um, our soul to heaven, or the other side, or whatever in terminology you want to use. And that cord is attached, so you can follow that. Um, you want to go towards the light that represents love and healing. Our angels are always there to guide us. This is their job, to guide us and to get us in the right place and protect us. They will stay with you until the job is done. So if you're stuck there, if someone passes and they're stuck, I mean, if they're a ghost for a while, their angels are still around them. The angels don't say, "Oh, time's up, gotta go, got my next gig." So they're just gonna wait patiently and assist you. Sometimes people ignore their angels though, or they're so overcome by fear or hate or something else that they are distracted and they don't they get confused. So that's kind of that. Um, the next question he had was, when someone passes, does their identity similar as their life persona was? So, for example, are they the same gender? Do they have the same role, like mother, father, grandmother, uncle? Do they have the same role? Do they present the same way as they did when they were here? So that's the question. And a lot of times they do present similarly, but not always identically to how you knew them when they left this plane. So they said friends and family can choose to come through to loved ones, um, but they're going to choose to do it in a way that it's easiest for their loved ones to recognize them. Um, Obviously, the physical body that they inhabited that looked like that doesn't exist anymore. But the imprint of that body remains on the soul. The age can often vary, though. Sometimes people pass and they died at 89, and they had cancer or arthritis or were in a wheelchair or whatever. But then when they come through healthy. They come through slightly younger sometimes. They can kind of choose what age they want to come through. Um, and a lot of times, some of them will come through in an age that was more closer to the prime of their life, kind of how, what the years they consider their prime of their life were. Children can also grow up on the other side. So if there's a child that passes, they may not come across as a little child that they were when they crossed, but they may come across as a slightly older child because children are allowed to grow up on the other side also. So they may present as slightly older, but they're still gonna want you to be able to recognize them or have someone be able to recognize them. So they may not be totally grown up. Even if it's been years, they may still come across as um, youthful and childlike. Um, so sometimes the children will come across older than they actually were when they passed. Um, and that is it for questions. I asked if there's any final messages, and they said, "Spring has come to the northern hemisphere. Please consider to rebirth yourself as the planet goes through its seasonal rebirth. Um, Try to turn over a new leaf, start some new things, resolve some outstanding issues so you can move on from them and start something new." So that's it for this healing for BP. Hopefully that helps some. I know some of the questions they didn't totally answer. That's kind of how it goes sometimes, and maybe some of the information um, he or others need to investigate more, or find out at a later time. So thank you so much for checking in today, and we will see you later. Bye-bye.